what's going on? It's Preacher. Today I want to talk about something that's been on my mind recently. We keep seeing Blizzard do this, bolster the excitement of loot and all this stuff they're doing to it, trying to change it and trying to do stuff with it. And we're crying out in vain. Please, just leave loot alone. For the love of God, stop messing with it. Stop putting all this extra shit on it. But at the same time, I'm like, why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? And over the last week or so, I've really been considering that Blizzard probably foresees, something probably I should have foreseen as well, given what I do, is that they really have kind of done a number on themselves indirectly in regards to loot. And it's probably because I don't care that much about loot, honestly, that I skipped over it, and maybe many haven't really thought that far ahead. But if we look at it, Blizzard's kind of goofed up a little bit by making sort of the right decisions, but that's left us in a bit of a mess going forwards. Because one thing we have to realize is that there are a hell of a lot of people who play this game for loot. And why not? It's an RPG ultimately, right? And that's what it's all about, is getting loot. And we keep saying, it's like, what are they doing? It's like this Diablo-style stuff with the stats. Why are they doing that? We're never going to be powerful enough, obviously, to like solo demolish Mythic Archimond or anything like that. So why are they bothering to fuck around with stats like this? Why are they trying to make it exciting? Why are they pushing this excitement factor on us, like forcing us to feel like we should get excited? And I was like, well, even though I don't care much about loot, it doesn't mean I've never been excited about loot. There have been some items in the game that have really blown my dick away. They really have, and I was like, oh, I want that so badly. And then I got to thinking, why was that? And more importantly, do the reasons I was excited about the items still exist today? And then I was like, well, no, actually, they don't get me excited about that. So, why is this? What's going on? Well, transmog's got to be the first port of call here. And transmog has had two effects. One, it's given a lot of people a hell of a lot of reasons to go and do older content that they can solo easy. Solo player could do it on their own, don't need many friends to do it, don't have to meet and get a load of organized groups together or anything like that. Could do it on streams with streamers, can just plug in, don't worry about making mistakes, and can go and get transmog gear, and you can equip and wear your favorite set. Now, the adverse effect of this, of course, is new loot visually has zero appeal to a lot of people. And even if you do like it, which is very subjective, so Blizzard releases the new armor sets, and ultimately we always review them on the web show, the audience is generally pretty split. Like, we don't like that, they like it, blah, 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 blah. Nothing unusual about that some people like one thing and dislike another, right? Nothing scary there. But what we can say is it's certainly of little to no consequence until you at least finish that set. Something that's never really been a problem in the past, where loot was kind of forced upon you, and you couldn't change it in any way. People were very reluctant to not wear their favourite sets. So a lot of the excitement and interest in new items is lost before you start. Because if you're like me, and I am guilty of this, I love on my warrior my old tier 6 set. I had great memories of collecting it. I had just the best experience in WoW at that time in raiding. And yeah, when I wear it, I not only get nostalgic, but I remember those times. And I feel really cool about it. And I enjoy the look of it. I was so happy when I finished it and completed that set. Which is something that absolutely doesn't exist anymore. Because I don't have that weird moment that I had in the past. Another item I was super excited about in the past was the Cataclysm Death Knight shoulders. The heroic version. Because I had the blue shoulders for the longest time. And due to the way the loot distribution went and the Vank tokens, I was one of the last to get it. Because I got a lot of early loot. It's as simple as that. It just went to me as a DPSer. But when things were on farm, it started to spread out a little bit more. And getting those shoulders was one of the last things ever. And the most annoying part about that is the shoulders from the normal mode were blue. And the rest of my armor was red and orange. And of course I had these giant orc shoulder plates which were blue, and my character looked stupid. So yes, the stats didn't bother me, but being really excited about getting those shoulders and finishing that set that I was forced to wear was exciting. Yes, it was. It was really exciting. And the day I got it, I was like, dude, I finished my set and now I look like a fucking badass. So good. Wearing up-to-date current gear. Everybody can see I've got the full set. This is fucking cool. I like it. My character looks baller. Now, of course, that doesn't apply anymore in the game. So all that excitement is gone. Absolutely nobody is going to even consider not transmogging their gear until at least they fully completed it. So you don't have that anticipation, really. It's gone. Because eventually you'll get it, and if you don't, it doesn't matter, because you're still stuck with your transmog, which is no doubt your favourite set at the time. That's your favourite, most enjoyable set, or one of many that you already have. So, in that respect, loot has lost a lot of excitement, in my opinion. Then, we had the shift to Rppm. Rppm is one of my biggest gripes at the moment as a DPSer. It's one of the things that turns me away from DPSing a lot. And it's what's taken a lot of excitement out of some items as well. The idea about Rppm makes sense. It did make sense. As players got better, the ability to stack cooldowns, especially when those cooldowns were predictable or on use, meant that you could do absolutely tremendous things, and created probably balancing nightmares between people who were good at doing that and people who were not. You had to balance for generally the medium ground, not the lowest common denominator, but certainly the medium ground. And if the better players are able to do things like track cooldowns and stack things properly, then there's a huge DPS differential where the top end guys are killing things way too quickly. And it started to create this void, this huge gap between the average player who doesn't know about these things because you need some outside research and extra add-ons in order to make it work, and those who could do that. Probably an absolute balancing fudgesicle, right? You can imagine that. You've got the same players, same gear, doing wildly different DPS across the spread of a whole raid, and some of you will be going, well, the others should learn how to do that. But the tools aren't in the game to do that, so Blizzard can't really say, oh, you should be installing a shitload of add-ons in order to be able to manage this. They can't do that. So in order to fix that, they went down the Rppm route, which is where you had little to no control over a lot of things. This takes a lot of excitement away from loot. If we look at some of the most infamous non-legendary items in the game that people were creaming over, you can see they met generally both of these criteria, of one being really visually appealing, which is what gives a lot of excitement, and they worked well as DPS. So if you look at things like the Skull of Gul'dan, going back to the Burning Crusade, not only did the Skull of Gul'dan and the corresponding trinket that you got from Muru create a huge visual effect, either setting you alight on green fire or creating the Rune of Power, which was not something we saw every day back in those raiding times. That was very sought after purely because of those reasons. Yeah, this thing sets you on fucking fire. Everybody around you sees that you have it, and yes, that is appealing to people. It's not about being a special snowflake. It's about making a statement and making people want it. So there you had this trinket that absolutely stood out. And not only that, it was on use. So for the DPSs as well, it had an extra level of excitement. You could, even if you were an average DPS, you could macro this thing into all your abilities. So not only were you burning with green flame, but you were actually doing the most damage possible at the same time. Very exciting. Super exciting. Let's talk about the Deathbringer's Will. Deathbringer's Will was notorious. My god, this thing was sought after. There are so many pugs from anybody who played during Wrath of the Lich King who would see every single user of the Deathbringer's Will instantaneously leave their pug as soon as Saurfang died and the trinket did not drop. So many pugs put together to go and kill ICC, and many people who were after different items like, I forget the name of the caster trinket that was completely overpowered. DBO, I think the nickname for it was. Problem is, all your melee, in general, who wanted the armor penetration that was on the item at the time, would leave as soon as Saurfang was dead, and pugs rarely made it past it. So what made this item so sought after? One, it had a variety of visual effects, turning you into one of the Ice Crown minions. Yeah, you could be a Tonka, you could be the Iron Dwarf, you could be all kinds of stuff, giving you huge DPS boosts, which was fantastic and greatly appealing to the average player, made it very exciting. But not only that, it was working on not Rppm as much as people might think it did. It worked on an internal cooldown, which is rare these days, unfortunately. What is an internal cooldown? Basically, you could track when that trinket would proc again, and Deathbringer's Will could proc, and reliably proc, within 5 seconds maximum after its internal cooldown reset, allowing good players to track the internal cooldown and make very educated decisions on when to pop their cooldowns, because they knew this super powerful trinket, which was looking visually badass, was certainly going to give its huge buff in the next 5 seconds. And I know it's going to happen, and I know I can make decisions based around this. That makes a wonderful, wonderful item. Absolutely wonderful. So great. But we can't really have that these days with Rppm, can we? We can't do it. We just can't do it, because we go back to the old problem where the DPS differential between different raid groups is enormous, absolutely enormous, and balancing becomes a whole problem. So Rppm is probably here to stay, with some rare exceptions that are going to allow people to do a little bit more. Same reason a lot of the set bonuses as we go into our final tier of Warlords of Draenor are randomly summoned pets. Yeah, balanced druids, mages, all getting these things, which are overall a DPS boost, but not something that's really in your control, and certainly doesn't allow you to do anything truly magnificent with your character. And it's understandable why they've done it. It's understandable. As much as I like to teach you guys how to take advantage of the opposite system, it's totally understandable why they've done that. So now we have a problem where loot has lost a lot of its luster. Can't add Rppm. Can't really do much with the visuals because people don't really care that much. They just either assess it within 5 seconds. You might develop one of these designers, the artwork guys. You got to feel bad for them in some ways. I've got to spend probably, a few months designing some tier sets, making all the animations. For people like us to instantly bring it up on a web show and stick a few thousand people in front of it and go, nah, yeah, not asked. Going to stick with what I've got already. And that's got to be very downhearting. And no doubt they regret transmog in some form or another. So how can they do it? How can they make loot exciting? In a game where people crave loot, if you make loot unexciting and boring, then people are going to drift away, as we're seeing people do. We've seen on the numbers and the statistics that were posted by MMO Champion that the interest in going to raid has dropped pretty dramatically. Pretty goddamn dramatically. People just aren't interested anymore, and probably for the reasons we stated above. They're going out and they'd rather farm transmog gear. They'd rather look cool than be cool, if that makes sense. They'd rather look swagger than actually have the swag to pull off a huge DPS or be unkillable as a tank or great HPS, because frankly, they don't need to. They absolutely don't need to. And with legendary rings coming around, I'm sure as soon as we see the visual effects, we'll see a lot of people jumping in to try and get their legendary rings, and no doubt huge complaints over how long it takes to get it in before that happens. But now all they're left with is stats. That's it. They're trying to get us excited about stats. And it's a bit of a bummerino, Blizz, honestly, because it's not going to work. But I totally get that you want to make loot exciting, because if a lot of people are raiding purely to upgrade their item levels, which we've seen the item level skew is no doubt to really push this forward and get pugs to clear more by the promise of higher item levels towards the end of the dungeon. They're trying to do something, because the easy ways of making things cool, like visual effects, you can't overdo that. You just can't. You can't overdo visual effects. You can't have everybody turning into a fucking circus every time they pop a trinket. Can't be done. It has to be rare or it just doesn't work out. And not only that, they can't really do much with the visuals of armor and stuff like that, which is why we're seeing crazy stats pop up in boots to try and get people to get excited about secondary stats. I do feel that's the wrong way to go. What I would really rather see, if I was to leave a conclusion on this, and I guess the point of this is that, yeah, I sympathize with where you're going, and they're probably looking to the future and saying people are not going to be into this. They're really not. And that's the thing we need to deal with. People are getting less interested in loot, and the things that all made things spectacular and really exciting, we can't really do anymore. So what are we going to do about this? Let's try and mix things up. Let's try and see what works. Let's try different things. What's going to get people excited again? I don't think it's stats. Because unlike Diablo, we're not going to be able to get certain stats that allow us to do absolutely ridiculous things. That's not going to happen. WoW doesn't work that way. So the stats has got to be the wrong way to go about it. I think the only suggestion is to certainly consider odd items that are not Rppm, things that players can control, and we can look towards pushing that skill cap back up, because it worked in the past. It is possible, but not too many. Not too many. Got to hold it back. Can't have hundreds and hundreds of these things flying around. Every trinket can't do that. Otherwise, we will just end up straight back in Mists of Pandaria, and then we're in some big trouble again. And on top of that, we really, really, really need to see just some cool items. It only takes one. And that's the thing. It only takes one. It only takes one item that you could acquire to get you excited and to want you to go and get it. If I was to ask people now, is there something in Hellfire Citadel you really, really want? They'd probably say the Archimon trinket, the class trinket. Yeah, I really, really want that, because it's for my class, and that's where we're seeing things going. If I was to ask people about a pair of boots or anything like that, no, come on, get the fuck out of here with that. Although I see why you're doing it. It's got to be. You've got to put some exciting items in there. Stop messing with stats. People don't care because ultimately you determine the stats. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you change the stats to be, they're still set in stone and there's nothing we can do about it. So don't try that method. Give us a reason to want to get them. Think of the Malefic HUD. When the Malefic HUD was announced and it was shown, people lost their fucking minds. Absolutely lost their minds. And my entire guild was so excited for our Warlock. Didn't matter if we got it. We wanted our Warlock to get it because it's so cool. So cool and rare. We can't give access to this to everybody. And rare counts as one class. It does. Like it or not, it going to one class is rare enough for people to get into a raid and to be raiding alongside people who are popping demonic wings properly and making it look cool. It's got to be on the visual side. It can't be armor sets because there's no way transmog can be taken out of the game. That would be a fucking colossal problem. We know that. Rppm has to kind of stick around. I get why. Let's just do something magical instead of playing with stats and stuff. I get why this is a problem, and I get that you're foreseeing this is going to be a huge issue, but it only takes 1 or 2 items. That's all it takes to make people really excited. We've seen that in the past. That's what's needed. Create that item. It doesn't even need to be overpowered as long as it does something cool. That's all it needs. Alright guys, thank you so much for listening. I'll see you again. Bye-bye.